In Parshas Nitzavim, according to the Ramban, the Torah relates to us the mitzvah of Teshuvah. The Pasuk says, Ki sishma b'kol Hashem Elokecha lishmar mitzvosav v'chukosav aksuva b'sefer HaTorah hazeh ki soshav el Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha. Ki ha-mitzvah hazois, says this mitzvah, ki ha-mitzvah hazois, asher anochi mitzav chayim, that I'm commanding you today, loy niflasi mimcha v'loy rechaikahi. It's not distant from you. It's not far away. Loy v'shamayim hi leimor miyal lano ha-shamayim avikachel lano v'yishmenu v'nasena. It's not in the heavens, in the skies, the shamayim that you have to say and have to ask who is going to climb up to the heavens and bring it to us. And it's not across the seas. You don't have to ask someone who can travel across the sea and bring it back to you. It is very close to you. It's in your mouth and your heart. You have the ability to do it. So the Ramban says, Ki ha-mitzvah hazois. This mitzvah, which mitzvah are we referring to? When we say this mitzvah, mitzvah hazois, the Ramban says that's the mitzvah of Teshuvah. The mitzvah of Teshuvah. The Torah is commanding us here with the mitzvah of Teshuvah. And this mitzvah, the Torah says, it's not distant from you. It's not far away. It's not in the Shamayim. It's not me'ever le'yam. It's karav ma'id. It's very close to you. Ki karav elecha dover ma'id beficha, as the Ramban says, the mitzvah of vidui. Beficha v'lvavcha la'asaisa, and in your heart, to be chayzer b'teshuvah. This mitzvah, the mitzvah of teshuvah, seems to be very close at hand, very simple. Which of course is appalling. We know that it's one of the most difficult things in the world is for a person to change. And even the smallest habits of a person has developed a habit over time. And even if he knows that it's something that it's not good for him, it's something that it's not proper, it's something detrimental, it's wasteful, it's very, very hard to get a person to change his habits. To be chayzer b'teshuvah, to change himself completely, to turn around and change himself. It's karav ma'od. It's something that's so close, karav elecha dover, it's so close to you. And the Torah is saying it's not me'ever liyam, you don't have to travel great distances. It's right here. It's right in front of you. But it's so hard. It's so hard to change. And we see year after year, many people don't change. So what is the meaning of this, that is karav elecha dover ma'od? We find in regard to this mitzvah of Teshuvah another interesting aspect. The Torah says in Parshas Nitzavim, says previously in Perek Lamed Pasuk Beis, V'shavta ad Hashem Elokecha v'shamata v'koila k'chol asher anochi mitzav chayim ato v'necho v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha. So again, referring to the mitzvah of Teshuvah as we just discussed, and the Torah uses this lashon that you will return to Hashem b'chol levav v'chol nafshecha, with your whole heart and soul. And again, the Torah says it again in Pasuk Yod, Ki sishma b'kol Hashem Elokecha lishmar mitzvosav v'chukosav aksuva b'sefer HaTorah hazeh ki soshav el Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha. It says again b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha. And in Parshas Ve'eschanan it also uses that lashon. Now we know that this lashon is used, we say it in Krishma v'havta Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha afilu noitel es nafshecha. Even if he takes your life, mesiras nefesh, you have to have avas Hashem, have to be meiser nefesh. But for Teshuvah, that's not appropriate over here. We're talking about being chayzer b'teshuvah. So what is the lashon b'chol nafshecha? What does it mean to imply over here? What is it signifying over here? We're using this lashon over here. It seems to be the key to Teshuvah. We find this lashon in Parshas Chayesar. That Avram Avinu says to Bnei Ches, Avram vayakam Avram v'yishtach v'lam haaretz livnei Ches v'yidaber itam leimar im yeshes nafshechem likvar es meisi milfanu shma'uni ufigali be'Efraim ben Soicher. He says im yeshes nafshechem. It's nafshechem. That clearly it doesn't mean over here Mesiras Nefesh. So what does it mean nafshechem? The Rekeach says nafshechem means with the whole koyach, with the whole rotzen, with their whole heart and soul, with their whole koyach and rotzen, meaning the pshat is meaning that Avram Avinu says, yes, you want to help me out. Yes, you want to accommodate me in this time of distress, but there's also Yetzer Haras. You're also going to have distractions. There's also going to be interferences. Im yeshes nafshechem, if you really truly want to help me, then do it with your whole heart and soul and whole koyach to stand up against these obstacles. Im yeshes nafshechem. I know that Ephron, he is a devious person, and he has all kinds of tricks, and there's going to be all kinds of obstacles in the way. Im yeshes nafshechem piguli, with your whole koyach, with your whole rotzen, with your leiv shalom. To be chayzer b'teshuvah, the key to teshuvah is, we know there's obstacles, but that has to be the most important thing. If that is the most important thing, we're aware that there's a Yetzer Hara, we're aware that there are obstacles, but this is what is most important to us. This is what we want most. Then, if it's what we want most, if it's what's most important to us, then it's Korach Moed, then it's very close. If we make that resolution and we decide that this is the most important thing to us, yes, we have desires, yes, we have weaknesses, but if this is what's most important to us, then we will be able to overcome all of that. We find by Yaakov Avinu, when Lavan tricked him, and he worked another 7 years for Rachel Imenu. The Pasuk says, "Vayiyu ki yomim achadim b'hava isa." They were like just a few days. Well, what does that mean? If he was longing, and this is what he wanted, a person who is waiting for something, normally he's waiting and he really is anticipating it, he's waiting impatiently. And the longer the time, it seems like an enormous amount of time, and it seems like a burden. And here Yaakov Avinu is saying that, the Torah is saying about Yaakov Avinu that it was like just a few days because of his great love for Rachel Imenu. But the pshat is, it was not a big price to pay. It was as if he was only working for a few days. Because of his great love. And how important that this was the most important thing. So yes, it was 7 years, but that was a small price to pay in order to have Rachel Imenu as a wife. That was a small price to pay. It was Kiyom Achadim, in his Ava for her, it was a small price. It was just like a few days. It seemed like nothing at all. Because that was the priority. That was what was most important. And in Teshuvah, if that's what our priority is, if that's what's most important to us, if that's what we want most, then the price of overcoming our Yetzer Hara will seem like a small price to pay. It will seem like Yomim Achadim. And it will be Korav Ma'id Hadavar. It will be very close to us. It will be within our reach, within our grasp. If that's what we truly desire. If we really truly desire to come close to the Rebbeinu Shalom, then the price that we have to pay, the sacrifices, will seem very small and very meaningless. Said over about the Steipler Gaon Zatzal that he never understood why people made such a big deal about fasting. When it was a Tanis, it was a fast day, why they made such a big deal about it. Never understood that. One time there was a Tanis. It happened to be there was a food shortage in Eretz Yisrael at the time. It was a shortage of food. And it was a Tanis. Towards the end of the Tanis, they told the Steipler, he was learning, of course, Yom V'Layla. And towards the end of the Tanis, they told the Steipler that the Tanis was about to end. But there was a shortage of food, so he just continued learning. Kept learning. I learned through in the night into the next day, and came towards the end of the next day, he still hadn't eaten. But then he thought to himself that it's a big inyan to fast for 3 days, so just keep going. So he continued on. And he fasted into the third day, and then he completed 3 days of Atanis. And then they asked him afterwards, how did he feel? How was it? He said, the first day he felt nothing at all. The second day, well, small, little bit of hunger, but nothing. It was only towards the end of the third day that he really started to feel hungry. To the Stipler, what was most important was his avodas Hashem, learning Torah Yom V'Layla. Food was so incidental. To him, to fast for 1 day was Korv Ma'id. It was not difficult at all. Yes, he needed food. Like every human being, he needed food and water for sustenance. But he was so, nafshecha, his nefesh was so attached to learning Torah. That was his priority. That was so important. This was, in comparison, was so meaningless. It was only towards the end of the third day that, of course, his body needed the nourishment, that he started to feel the hunger. And that's the Yesod of Teshuvah. If that's what's most important to us, if that's what we really want with our whole koyach, our whole rotzen, whole nafshecha, then it really is Korv Ma'id B'ficha